Welcome, amazing students. Mr. Viteri here. We are still on Unit 8, and this is Day 5. I'm talking about solid waste today, and basically that's a term used to describe anything that we throw out. It has to be a solid, of course, that we do not use or cannot use. There are three broad strokes or categories that we can identify these things, and that's going to be municipal. That's a buzzword. That means like household waste. Then non-municipal, which would be industrial waste um, or typically agricultural waste, right? And then we're going to have another category of hazardous waste, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, if we look at this image over here, we're going to notice that mining. So this is going to tell us how much is municipal or non-municipal waste. Sewage, sludge, we're going to include that into industry. But basically, that would be all of our sewage that gets dried out. So not the water, but rather the dried out nasty stuff. Okay. Now, industry, agriculture are going to take a majority of this. We could actually even throw mining and oil and gas production all under industry as well. So, industry, which would include the mining and manufacturing of oil, including agriculture, are going to make up the bulk of solid waste. All right. Now, look, mining, crazy. So, in regards to municipal waste, it may look like it's very little. It's about 1.5%. I've seen examples of only 1% of total solid waste that's ever produced. Let's continue. Out of that municipal waste, I've seen this question multiple times. What is the bulk? What makes up the bulk of all of the municipal waste? And that means the household waste that we throw out. And that's paper. Paper is the leading thing that we throw out. And I get so upset every day. I get so upset about how much junk mail I get. And it started, probably you're starting to get it now. It started roughly when I was 17, 18, going into college. And I think it was the first time I filled out an application for a credit card. And then all of a sudden, these things just came. And I don't know how to turn it off. I wish I could turn it off. People tell you, "Oh yeah, you just have to tell the post office to stop sending them." No, that doesn't work necessarily. Oh, you just have to contact the business. Who has time for that? And then when you're on the phone, like literally, it's a different person selling me something. I don't even look at them. I just throw them away. But paper makes up a bulk of that. We could do better. We have been doing better at Kennedy here. We're trying to get away from paper, and we're trying to do everything virtual. So that is one step in the better direction. All right. So definitely know that paper makes up the bulk of our municipal waste. We could look at the other things here: yard trimmings, food. Okay. This is all biodegradable, right? And that wood is biodegradable as well. So all of these products here, we could do better. Okay, we could do better. We could do different things with these products as opposed to our municipal waste. And I'm just giving you a little segue because we could biodegrade those things using microbes, and then they could produce methane for us, and we could use it as a viable energy source. But I digress. If we look at our amount of waste throughout the years, we've seen that we've had a steady increase. This is because our population is just continuing to grow. However, if you look at the per capita use, it does look like we are getting to a some normalcy here, and so it is going to continue to increase as our population increases. This is the United States only. We got this from a University of Michigan study here. And so this one up here in the red is going to be the overall millions of tons. And this line here, since it's blue, this is going to be per capita. Pretty cool graph here. Once again, we have two axes here. And so we're trying to differentiate the two. We need to be able to identify these or maybe even record data from here. So let me give you a practice question. In 2005, roughly what was the per capita usage per day in the United States? And hopefully, the 2005, you look up here, it'll be 4.69, not to 253, because I was looking for per capita usage, and that'll be here. So, what are we going to take away from this? From this slide here is are the amount of waste that we're creating is increasing, our per capita is stabilizing, but since our population continues to increase, that the overall amount of waste that we produce also increases. Now, this is troubling because our landfills get filled. Where are we going to put all the garbage after the landfills are filled? Well, you can dig another place. Well, just think about that. Just think about always digging a different place. And currently, where our landfill is in Keysby right now. You know, that's another conversation. We're going to have that later on. But understand, Keysby's getting filled in the next 10, 15 years. Sayreville has a landfill. They're getting filled even quicker than us. They're going to have to expand on this. Where are they going to expand on it? You might be concerned on where they're going to build a landfill. Why? We'll get to that. Okay. So out of all the products that we use, okay, so all the waste, what can we do with waste? Well, there's pretty much three things that we can do. We can put it in a landfill, incinerate it, which means burn it, recycle and composting. I'm kind of putting that in the same bundle here. So what have we done since in 2011? Basically, landfills in the United States is what we do. We have a lot of land in comparison to a lot of other countries, so primarily the United States uses landfills to get rid of most of our solid waste. Okay. Now, let's learn a little bit more about landfills. This is important image and important to understand the concept that how does America get rid of waste? Majorly, we're speaking that we basically put it in the landfill. Once again, our landfill is in Keysby, and all the garbage that we put out every week goes to that location. Let's learn more about that. Okay. So landfills can be divided into basically two categories, um, open or closed. Okay. And here's a picture of an open landfill, and it's basically thrown into a pile. And this is typical of perhaps a developing country that doesn't have the infrastructure or the finances to fund all the garbage cans, the trucks, the workforce to collect the garbage and put it in a particular area. It rains, that gets washed into a waterway. So it's pretty sad. And this would be common in developing countries or countries that don't necessarily have the infrastructure to do better. A closed sanitary landfill would be a developed country. In a developed country in the United States, we have closed or sanitary landfills. We're going to go more into detail. Once again, how can we get rid of this stuff? Incineration, that means burning, ocean dumping, illegal here in the US, something called deep well injection. And this is going to be when we basically take all of our garbage, put it in like oil barrels, seal it up, and put it below groundwater so it does not pollute the groundwater if those things leak. And then we have the 3 or 4 R's, which we'll talk about later. Now, back onto this open landfill. Rats, birds, disease is going to become prevalent in this area if the garbage is left to waste here. So this is one of the cons associated with having open landfills. Okay, and can you imagine the smell right now? Can you imagine the smell of dirty diapers? Can you imagine the smell of dirty of rotting chicken or milk? Oh, I hate the smell of rotting milk. And when the garbage truck passes, and if you're stuck behind it, you open the window and you're going to get that smell. Unfortunately, this happens in certain areas. All right, we can do better. All right. So going on to sanitary landfills. So what can we do to make it better? All right, we can develop something called a sanitary landfill. Sorry, let's just get back here. And in a sanitary landfill, there are certain things that we do in order to minimize the amount of environmental damage. The one thing that we do before we even we dig a hole, and then we put a plastic liner or a clay liner on the bottom, typically both. The bottom is clay because we know that clay is typically impermeable. So a high clay liner filled with plastic, so it's also a liner there. Then we're going to have we're going to start filling it. Now, as we start to fill it, rain is going to come and it's going to fill this up. This will be a big old bowl, and that water, or now we're going to call that leachate, Leachate, is going to accumulate on the bottom. Now, this would overflow if there was no type of draining system. So there is a leachate collection system that's going to pump this water out. And we're going to put this into a wastewater treatment center. We're going to push it somewhere else. Okay. Now, that's one thing to get rid of the leachate. Another thing that we do is that as we are every night, the landfill is covered with dirt. Okay, it's covered usually with contaminated soil or construction debris to minimize the smell, so the rodents don't come, so the birds don't come. The birds do come. I've been to the landfill, but typically they're gone by the night, so they're not staying there. I've never seen rats, but maybe they come too at night. So it's covered with dirt, at least 6 inches of soil every day to try to minimize the smell, to try to minimize the amount of pests that would come in that area. Okay. And then now, since you've basically capped biological waste, it's going to start to break down. It breaks down into methane. So you could collect some of those fumes. And in Keysby, they actually do have a collection system to collect the methane, and they use that for burning, which is pretty cool. Some landfills don't have it. Instead, they're venting into the atmosphere. We all know that methane is a greenhouse gas stronger or has a greenhouse potential more than carbon dioxide. So that is a problem. So all these things, uh, if you're using a leachate capturing system, if you're using a ventilation system to capture the methane, if you're capping it, meaning covering it with soil on a daily basis, this kind of minimizes the damage. The big damage that we could get from a landfill is that if there is a hole in the liner and it starts to leak out the waste, and then it contaminates groundwater, and we're dependent on that groundwater, then that will be a problem. Because let's be honest, there's dirty diapers here, dirty milk here. You've probably thrown batteries in here. You've probably thrown paint in here, and that is going to be, have heavy metals. Those heavy metals that are fat soluble can bioaccumulate in the body if we're drinking in the water on a daily basis, and basically cause damage. All right, let's continue. So, now, once a landfill is completely filled, they usually cap it, and when they cap it, they're going to um, they're going to now plant grass on it and trees, and it sometimes it doesn't even look like a landfill anymore. It just looks like a big old mountain. So this guy's kind of negative, but let's just watch this video really quick. Hope it works.
So does modern landfill work? Imagine a giant plastic bathtub in the ground. Trash is added to the open tub and covered each day with daily cover, such as contaminated soil or ground up construction debris. As time goes by, more and more trash is piled on, and more highly toxic methane gas builds up as the trash decomposes. This is when you start to get that trash smell. You know the one. Any water that's in the trash, or any rain or snow that seeps through the cover, starts to trickle down through the garbage. When water and waste are mixed, it creates a toxic, poisonous soup called leachate. Leachate contains all the dangerous stuff that's in a lot of what people throw in the trash. The tens of thousands of chemicals, heavy metals, and other toxic materials found in electronics, batteries, prescription drugs, and plastics, just to name a few. Now the leachate, containing these poisons, percolates through the trash and eventually pools at the bottom. One set of pipes collects the liquid and takes it to the collection tank. And another set of pipes collects and diverts the toxic gases. However, only some of the gas gets captured over the life of the landfill. The rest escapes into the air. Rancid odor and airborne toxins that have been shown to travel over 3 miles from a waste site. History has proven that many parts of a landfill system will eventually fail. The collection pipes buried under the garbage will become clogged and eventually break. Liners will be punctured by sharp objects, and the chemicals in leachate will burn holes in the plastic. Even the EPA and Casella's own experts admit all liners leak. If a leak were to be detected, it's too late. You cannot repair a liner once it begins to leak. become big holes, and eventually, the barrier between the waste and groundwater completely fails. How and where the leachate will reach the groundwater is impossible to predict. Hundreds of homes using private wells surround the Southbridge landfill. Next time you take a sip of cool water from the faucet, bathe your kids in the tub, or take that long run in what you hope is healthy fresh air. Think about it. Dirty diapers, broken office furniture, bathroom cleaners all sound harmless enough when you're chucking them into the trash. But now you know.
I hope you were able.
That's modern landfill work. Imagine.
I hope you were able to hear that. This is my first time trying to do a little video within a video, so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Let's continue. Now, another thing that we need to know about is on the CED is something about e-waste, and that stands for electronic waste. All the wires, any wire that you basically have that's connected to an electronic is going to have some amount of copper, or and copper's never like 100% copper. Copper could be mixed with some lead. It could have some mercury into it. It could have some other heavy metals. Cell phones, things like that, are also going to have be present in the construction of these materials, and they are going to if they were left in a landfill, they'll start to degrade or break down, like batteries. You're talking about all this electronic waste. And so these things uh, will contaminate the leachate, and they're dangerous. You're not even supposed to throw them outside in the garbage. And a lot of people throw their TVs outside in the garbage, their computers, their old laptops, old cell phones. They'll just throw it into waste, or even like a broken radio. But that is e waste. There are valuable metals that can be retrieved from these products. Okay. Um, and some companies are trying to take advantage of this because it's harder and harder to find copper. It's harder and harder to find coal. It's harder and harder to find these valuable metals. So can we get them from our old electronics? So you can recycle these, and that's why there's buyback systems on cell phones. There's buyback systems uh, on maybe some type of computers. I know Best Buy used to take e-waste, and that's a great thing too. So in Woodbridge Township, there is a set. If you drive down to the landfill in Keysby, you can drop off your electronics, and there's a special container that they put in it, and I believe they're going to bury that deeper than the water, um, the the groundwater, so it won't contaminate that as that starts to degrade over time. All right. Now, I want to mention this right here. This is called NIMBY. You can say it in your head, NIMBY, and that stands for not in my backyard. And and that basically means like I was telling you before, our landfill is filling. Do you want another landfill built behind your backyard? And typically, that's the attitude of most Americans. We don't want garbage next to our house. We want it to smell good. We want our water clean, and so on and so forth. And so, NIMBY is a term basically describing that. Unfortunately, there is signs of environmental injustice, or you could also call this environmental racism. And sometimes we ship our garbage someplace else. And here's an example of electronic waste being recycled, typically in a developing country. And so let me just read this. This is what I got from online. Environmental injustice can be defined as disappropriate exposure of communities of color, the poor, to pollution and its concomitant effects on health and environment, as well as unequal environmental protection and environmental quality provided through laws, regulation, governmental programs. So this happens often. A lot of our waste is shipped over to other countries. And unfortunately, if there's no environmental laws protecting them or protecting the people, they are taken advantage of. You know what? I was thinking like this happens someplace else, but this happens even here. I downloaded this the scientific journal that was posted from Flint, Michigan. So this happens in the United States as well. Flint, Michigan. If you don't know that, it's not necessarily a rich, booming metropolis. It's pretty much an area with lower income people, and they had a water problem. Still have a water problem. Here's some images of water taking from their tap. This how can we fix this? It's difficult to fix because our taxes typically are going to pay for the infrastructure needed to replace the pipes to correct the system. If there's no money in the community, then how do you get this to fix it? Well, the federal government could help, and I believe they're helping. I'm not. I mean, I know the problem. I don't know what the outcome is in Flint, Michigan. If you wanted to do one of their alternative assignments on Flint, Michigan's water crisis, that would be something to look at. So here's some images of that. And let's continue. Um, this is a second way to get rid of pollution, and that's going to be incineration. Basically means burning it. Okay. This could be potentially really, really dangerous because it depends on what you're burning. If you're burning plastic, not smart. If you're burning like e-waste, not smart because now you can have lead, mercury, all these other cadmiums, copper into the gaseous phase, and now people are going to be inhaling this. So it could be extremely dangerous, not very smart. Of course, you're producing greenhouse gases. Those fumes could be toxic at this particular point. Okay. A pro is you can use it for energy. So let's, if we were going to do this right, we would use biodegradable waste, maybe food waste, and we try to burn that. And then maybe we could use that to create electricity. Just a review of what we can do to reduce air pollutants, we could use some wet scrubbers, electrostatic precipitators, HEPA filters, or HEPA bag filters. Okay, so incineration is another way we can get rid of some solid waste. This is ocean dumping. This is used by some countries. It's very unfortunate that they use this method. The Clean Water Act, I believe in 1970, 1972, no longer allows the United States to do this. We used to do this 3 miles offshore and then just dump it in the ocean. The ocean will take care of it. But now there are some issues regarding this. And one of the famous things is called the Pacific Patch. And this is a great word, a gyre, which is kind of like almost a whirlpool or a vortex of water. It just kind of spins in a circle. So when you ocean dump in this area, the plastic kind of just stays there. So it's almost like this huge island that's existing there. And what we've already spoken that litter pollution can cause intestinal blockages of organisms and basically hurt organisms, and it's unsightly as well. All right. So let's watch a little video on the Pacific Patch. And once again, I hope it works. If it doesn't, I'm going to allow you to skip forward on the Ed Puzzle today. So you can do that.
Terrible. Our work. No matter what you call planning, it is our home. In a small span of time, Homo sapien has existed. We have lived without impacts on the condition of our planet. From the depths of the jungle to the heights of the mountains, human footprints have come across the expanse of the world. One of the most prolific areas is our lungs and oceans. Humans, specifically fossils, contact oceans, those of very Pacific knowledge functions and effects of oceans are hard.
Yeah, so this is definitely a problem. We do not do it here in the United States. You can watch the rest of that video on YouTube on your own. Now let's talk about the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Reducing is the best. If you don't need it, don't buy it. Reusing something is great. If you have to use a water bottle, please reuse it. Okay, fill it up with more water. Recycling now is debatable. Some people say that recycling certain products uses more energy than manufacturing new. That could be true, but other people say that no, recycling uses less energy. And so I think it's certain products like aluminum is better if you recycle it, but let's if something like styrofoam, sometimes it's easier to make styrofoam, but of course it's a waste product, but just making new ones is actually better than, let's say, the alternative. And that's not trying to justify styrofoam, that's just giving an example. The best thing to do would be reducing or reusing instead of recycling, because recycling does use a lot of energy. Think about it. It has to get all cut up, it has to get washed, it has to get burnt to get into something else. And typically we send this to other countries as well. All right, guys, and rotting is the last thing. And rotting is going to be allowing these things to basically rot and biodegrade. Um, and that's going to be something that we can do with leftover biological waste. And it turns into beautiful soil, and we can add it to our soil to grow vegetables in our backyard. This is what we do in our courtyard. And we could even use beautiful worms and something called vermicomposting, where we actually put the worms in the compost so they could help the food rot or continue to biodegrade. You were an excellent class. I'll talk to you soon.